Hi everyone. Before I begin, I'd like to hope that everybody takes a moment to remember the tragic events of 9/11 and hope it's a very solemn day. And with that said, let's get on to another tips and tricks for Advanced Squad Leader. And today I will be covering Hitdorf on the Rhine. Now, ordinarily I would say that I wouldn't want to mention the classic game, but in this case it does merit some mention. Um, and at the same token, I'd like to say that and remind everybody that John Hill did create an awesome game, and for everyone concerned, it has evolved into an amazing game with the advent of Advanced Squad Leader. With that said, let's compare the two scenario cards. So I have a PDF format here of the ASL variant, Hitdorf on the Rhine, and the classic squad leader scenario 10, Hitdorf on the Rhine. And the first thing that you'll notice here is some sort of good art, probably done by Roger McGowan. And the only controversy behind this is that it may not be obvious at first, but these are Russian troops. They have nothing to do with German and American paratroops. Of course, back in 1979, we were too young and perhaps stupid to realize that those are not American troops. And I only realized that rather late in life as well. So the scenario takes place in Hitdorf, and I'll show you a couple of pictures that I Googled or edged with Hitdorf. It's a very beautiful town in Germany. Um, who would have thought anybody would wage war there? But anywho. So let's look at the German OB. The German OB, you start off with a very minimal amount of troops, one full squad, a crew, and an LMG, and an 8.0 leader, which according to this game system, uh, that 8.0 leader is more of a liability than anything at all. And then right off German turn 1, you get a good amount of reinforcements coming in. 8 squads, 2 crews. They're not yet, well, 2, yeah, they're still considered crews in the basic game. 4 LMGs, a heavy Panzerfaust back in the day were integral counters, a radio with OBA, and 4 tanks. And you'll see that in the ASL scenario, these tanks come in greater variety, and I believe the half-track also has an MMG. And as for the squads, they're not 747s, they're 847s. Uh, they're paratroops, and they're considered to be elite with an immense amount of firepower, similar to the German 838s. Um, Along comes the advent of ASL. All of a sudden, the picture is different, and I don't know what 2 German soldiers sitting in a ditch have to do with anything with Hitdorf, but it is what it is. The location hasn't changed, and again, we have a 467. Now we have a crew, which is important because to distinguish the difference between the 247 and the 228, in the 228 on ASL, this guy can self-rally. And note here that they set up HIP, and there's 36 firepower factors. Now, why is HIP important? HIP is important because your greatest enemy is the unknown. So when you are going up against a position that is known to you, you have intelligence as to where are the positions of the enemy. That's a wealth of information. Unfortunately, the American player does not have that wealth at the beginning of the turn. And pretty much you have a truck, and people, some folks do not realize what is the value of the truck. So I'll talk about it a bit. And here, as you can see, you have a half track which is armed in this scenario. The heavy machine gun is dismantled, which means you can use it at 3 firepower factors dismantled. Now, uh, you can mantle the HMG, and that turns into a formidable weapon. Have a little bit of Nescafe here, excuse me, folks. So, as a mantled weapon, uh, this little joker can repair more efficiently than the LMG. And again, you have two uh, crews which can self-rally. So you could set those guys off with LMGs, and um, they can really uh, cause some serious concern to the American player. All right, so let's take a look at that. Now, the American player starts off with 9 uh, paratroop squads. They're elite. Uh, Quite a few great leaders, bazooka 45s with WP6, which is important because the smoke counter, the smoke grenade factor, is uh, limited to a total of 2 by SSR, and a radio. Uh, and the module is quite interesting, quite impressive. 100 mm OBA with HE or smoke. In the classic game, I used that smoke to gain a foothold on the last victory objective and retain it and deny the German player a victory. Call it gaming, call it what you want, but it is what it is. Again, so Hitdorf, Germany, beautiful place. Now here's your village board. None of these, I don't have any rights to any of these images, but they're readily accessible on the internet. If you Google it or use Microsoft Bing, I'm sure you're going to come up with this beautiful place. It's a place that looks like an area that I'd like to retire because I love fishing. Uh, Boating, I can't afford a boat, but I could certainly rent one for the day and go on a small cruise or a small fishing trip, I suppose. This looks really interesting, really beautiful. So let's actually look at the game map now. All right. So here's the game map. Here's your village uh, board, and here's uh, um, from where the Americans advance. Obviously, what the Americans do is they advance up to the edge of the board using whole hexes in order to get a head start and a foothold on uh, the objectives. And the objective is that the Americans hold um, at least 2 of the stone buildings, right? 2 of the stone buildings, and the Germans. Well, here are the victory conditions. Provided the Germany amass less than or equal to 24 CVPs, the American wins at the end of the game by controlling 2 or more stone buildings on board 3. Okay, so the first challenge you will be faced um, as the German player is that you have up to 36 mine factors. We'll talk about mines later. Okay, and then what you're faced with is this, a leader, and an LMG, and 36 mine factors. All right, to cover the whole entire area against Americans, a sizable American force. So you have 3, 6, 9 squads, and look at your leader lineup here. So all these folks are going to be advancing all at once into the village. You got a radio, and usually we give the radio to the lowest ranking leader because he does have a purpose. He can in ASL go with a squad, right, and prevent him from cowarding, um, prevent him from cowarding, and the squad subsequently does not need to take a leader lost morale check or a leader lost task check because he's the same morale as the squad, which in effect he is a valuable player. He's not, by virtue of being a 7-0, completely uh, completely useless. But usually, I like the fact that I can use the leadership modifiers to rally troops and to affect their increase the effectiveness of their firepower. So I usually give the 7-0 leader the radio. Now, when I last played this scenario, I did one mistake. I did give this leader the radio, but I left him unattended. No half squad, no full squad. So obviously, he was taken out in close combat. Don't do that mistake. Now, back to the German player. You don't have, you see what is up against you. You don't have a lot of squads. In a classic game, this LMG has penetration fire, which effectively at the end of the movement phase, when the defensive fire phase pops up, every squad that moved in his line of sight, he will have a penetration of 3 or 2. So he can affect 2 hexes and everybody that moves through that hex. Well, in squad leader, you don't have that luxury. However, what you need to note is protecting this area here doesn't mean you have to occupy it. What it means is that you have to set up your troops in order to best protect against a line of advance from the Americans. And I'm guessing the best way to do this is first and foremost set up a squad to protect any advance from here, and then set up the crew with the LMG like this, and you can use a fire lane to protect against the line of advance from here, and he can stay hip for good measure. The leader, I would put him there because that squad does not have a self rally, and this crew can self rally. And if you don't believe me, if we flip that unit over, here's the box indicating a self rally right there, right? Okay, let's put them back and break. Now, you might ask, why aren't you setting up in this area here? Basically, I am not setting up here because that would probably be the area that the Americans would like to take, and the best thing to do in that area would be to mine them. And you can mine the exterior, the open ground around those building hexes. So basically, the squad, once they move into this building, they enter from one of these directions, right? They incur a mine attack. Once they're in the building, they can move around within the building, okay? But once they try to exit that building, they get attacked by mines. Now, with respect to mines, what I used to like to do in the basic game is put 36 mines of 1 factor each out there, and that rattles your opponent. Here you have a choice of 3, not 3, you have the choice of 3 different factors, 6, 8, or 12, and you don't have to reveal the strength factor to your opponent until it makes a difference on the IFT. So let's multiply this by 6, and it's not 36, it's 6. Alright, and then let's clone them. There, you got 6. 6 mine factors, so you can mine the open ground around that building, okay? And you can also mine this area here. Actually, I would like, I'm not sure if you could set up mines and shell holes without having to reveal them. These are dirt roads, so everything here would be hip. Okay, you can even put some of these mines in in the open ground around these buildings. And now all you have to do is protect here, these buildings from being occupied. Um, that's right. Okay, now with respect to your reinforcements, right? What I like to do and recommend is with the half track, there's your half track. Put a good old leader in there. Put a squad, because he can combine firepowers with the half track. Give him an LMG. Give that leader the radio. Okay, and put them all as passengers in here. Now, why would you put them there? Okay. The reason why you would put them there is instead of using this building as an area to site, you'd like to ideally bring them all the way up here. And from there, they can see pretty much what they need to see. So I'm just going to put the passengers on the side and show you the movement. So he comes in crew exposed. Okay. 1 to there, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 4 to change covered arc, 4.5, 5, 6, 7. 7 plus 5 is 12, 13, 14, and you can either do an excessive speed breakdown or the following turn he's up here. The American player doesn't get his reinforcements until game turn 3, but by that time you'll have this fellow here up on that hill. You can basically see most of this road and this building, right? So you can call down 80 mm pretty much anywhere along this line of advance against the American reinforcements. That's one thing. Now, I did say I was going to talk about the truck. The truck can use road movement, of course, and if for any particular reason the the U.S. player does not want to go for this building, or leaves this road or one of the two roads open, you can use this truck to stay on the road and circle around them. Obviously, you'd want to put a probably a crew with an LMG. The crew can soft rally. He doesn't need a leader to go with them. He will try and make it to the American rear, okay, either from this road or that road, and cause havoc by not allowing any broken American units to retreat. So that's what you'd like to do with the truck if the American player permits you to do so. Now, if the American player does not advance readily, you can use these leaders to the greatest of your ability, all right, to make head roads into advancing onto the village hex, trying to occupy at least 2 stone buildings where you have the flexibility to exert firepower on at least a few of these buildings here. Okay. Now, lastly, with respect to the tanks, I like to bring them on the high ground, right? Now, what does the what does the scenario say with respect to the tanks? You enter on turn 6 along the east edge, right? Great. Okay, let's go back to the board here. So you're entering along these the east edge. The height is to the heights without any hull down is the position where you want to put these tanks, right? Up here, okay, and even down here. And you would only go hull down along here if the American player had a bazooka within a 4 hex range of anywhere here. Let's see the American bazooka. Do I have? Yep. Let's flip them over just to recall the range of the bazooka. It's actually 5 hexes. All right, not 4, but still, it's a lower than average shot. Okay. All right. So that's basically it for the German player. Um, for the American player, what I highly recommend is, let's zoom in a little bit. What I highly recommend is first deploy. So you have 9 squads. You can deploy 1 squad into 2 half squads. So let's do that for now. Okay. All right. So you can use these half squads to search, or you can use them for reconnaissance to find out where the mines are. What I do recommend as well is try to advance into one of these 2 buildings here with a bazooka and a squad. Okay, so you definitely want to set up somebody there, put in a leader, okay, and advance along the flank of the village. Occupy one of these buildings so you can deny an advance, or at least scare the German player into advancing from this road and obtaining this objective here. Everyone else, they have to deploy in a whole hex, right? And establish how are you going to advance. Use one flank or the other, but not both. I in my particular game, I amassed my forces here on this flank here. I did not go for this building, okay, because there's more treasure here than there is over there. The other key element here is taking these buildings as the American player is priceless. It's priceless because, okay, now I am 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hexes within range of my bazookas. I can um, I can at least have some chance against these tanks, as opposed to 0 chances from 2 tanks going up there, right? And as well, if the German player decides to bring uh, the along this road, I can declare street fighting, because the German AFEs will have to traverse between 2 buildings. So that street fighting is in chapter D. If you give me a moment, I'll give you the rule reference, or you know what? I'll post the reference number, the rule number, on the link below, on the description below. The other biggest challenge that the U.S. player has is trying to find the mines. Now, what happened in my game was I stumbled on them. I literally was playing the game as per the scenario card, the historical accuracy of the historical account of the scenario card, and I stumbled on them. And luckily enough, I didn't get any casualties until later in the game. But I was wondering, and then somebody can comment. I'm not a rules wizard, but somebody can comment below. What if I had done a search, right? My search revealed the minefield, right? I search as per rule A 12.152, reveals the mine search. Subsequently, I use clearance by going into the minefield using all my movement factors, going to UI, and then trying to clear the minefield as opposed to stumbling upon them. Is that doable? To be honest with you, like I said, I am not a rules wizard, but something to think about. Okay, something to think about, and probably if we can discuss it here, I don't mind. I appreciate all your comments and input. Um, so, uh, uh, one other important thing, it might be obvious, right? It might be obvious, but it may not be obvious to everyone. When you're dealing with mines, let's take off the movements. Uh, it is best to move unit by unit and not stack by stack. At least in the initial phase of the game, until you find out where the mines are, you're going to be moving a unit by unit. So just because I stack these units here as a stack doesn't mean I'm going to move that stack. I'm going to go 2 to there, 4 to there. Did this guy stumble upon any mines? No. Now I can move the other fellow without worrying about being caught in a mine. And then I can move the leader along the path that was followed previously. You move as a stack with minefields around, you're dead. Yeah, I posted on a classic site a World War II army film about how to get yourself killed. You want to get yourself killed in this type of scenario where there's mines, move as a stack. Do a, uh, I won't say it. Oh, well, okay, what the heck. Do a stackberg. Don't do it. Um, that's basically it. I've been talking for 26 minutes. I think I gave you a lot of information. Just checking my checklist here to see if I missed anything. It looks like I covered all my points. A little bit of Q&A. A couple of users asked me on Discord if I will be doing any night scenarios. Um, Look, I am a beginner in ASL, uh, and I've done night rules, a night scenario, and using the classic game. But with ASL, I've looked at Chapter E. I've skimmed it, and I can see that with night rules in ASL, there's a lot of interesting events and situations that can arise, a lot more complexity than the classic game. I'm not excluding it, but and I hope to do so, experiment with that in the near future. But it all depends. I'm gonna have to play at least 2 or 4, maybe 5 games of night rule scenario before I can even imagine creating a video about that. Um, Another fellow asked me about creating tutorials. Now, the scope of these videos is tips and tactics. It's not about rules. I have as many questions about the rules questions as the average Joe out there, and I read various forums um, and ask various questions and do a lot of research. And most of my games involve rulebook diving, and I have to thank Mark Dennehy with respect to that. He's an incredible rules knowledge master, and we do a lot of rulebook diving. It's part of the game. It's part of the enjoyment of the game, I find. But if you do want a good reference for rules tutorials, I would extend an invite for you guys to join Neil Udin's channel and J&D Hobbies. I'm going to post links to some of their tutorial videos below, and you can look them up. I don't want to steal anybody's thunder. And like I said before, I'm not a rules wizard when it comes to ASL, but I enjoy the game and I love playing it. Um, so I hope I've answered some of your questions out there, and I've given you inspirational insights into this interesting scenario. And I would highly encourage you guys to visit Hitdorf, Germany, for the folks that like to travel and relive history. It looks like a great place to visit. And with that said, I bid you all a great weekend, and I hope you continue enjoying this fabulous game called Advanced Squad Leader. Take care.